Alright, today we're talking about battery charging equipment, specifically a bench power supply. And we have two of them we're going to go over. This is not a sponsored post. We didn't get paid for any of this. We bought it with our own money, and we're just giving you our opinion and basically the one purpose we use it for. These are a bench power supply is really just a power adapter. You have them all over your house, and you probably don't think about it too much. You don't really have to, because you just plug a power adapter in the wall and it converts AC to DC. That's what a bench power supply is for. It does the same thing, except there is a little bit more involved with it. It's got a variable voltage output, and you can adjust the amperage output. So these are designed for one purpose, your power adapter, and they're all over the place. Routers, modems, water softeners. You know, when you're plugging your phone in, you're using a power adapter to change your 110, 120 AC to 5 volts, 9 volts, 12 volts, whatever DC. Except these are just for one purpose. Like this one I have is a 9 volt adapter and a 1.6 amp max output. So when you plug it in, you're going to get 9 volts approximately. And it'll put out up to 1.6 amps, which is about 14 watts. These, on the other hand, you can adjust your voltage and the max amperage output. So these we use for specifically the purpose we got it. I can tell you I never wanted one of these things because I saw them in electronic shops and they're really complicated. They've got like stuff, you know, happening, stuff flashing, and you see the display, you got knobs. And this is a simple one. A lot of these have a lot of different buttons and things, and I think it's just for programs. And it's something an electronics engineer would probably know how to do. But we got it for the one purpose of using it to charge and top balance lithium iron phosphate cells. We're off the grid, and we wanted to make our own energy storage system. Fancy word for saying a battery. So when you do those, you have multiple, in this case we're doing 48 volt cells, so we have 16 48 volt cells. When you get them, you want to top balance them. And in the off-grid DIY battery building community, these seem to be pretty popular. And there's another type, and we'll get to those in another video, but this one we're focused strictly on the bench power supply. It may or may not be the best thing for you, and it kind of does have a limited use. We found two uses for it. One of them is something that was kind of interesting that we'll tell you about, and I don't recommend doing this if you don't know what you're doing, because you could have a battery that's shorted out or had a problem with the battery. But you know, you get a car battery, a truck battery, and it runs completely down, and you put a smart charger on it, and it won't recognize the battery because the voltage is too low. And I think they all have different parameters. You know, some are going to be, maybe they'll detect at 3 volts or 6 volts. I'm not really sure what they are. Some of the really nice ones will just go ahead and do a soft charge and start charging a dead battery. The old school batteries, you plug them on, you put them onto the terminals, you push the button for power, plug it in, push the button, and it'll just start outputting power. And those worked fine. But I've only got one left that actually works, and it only works sometimes, so enter the bench power supply. It does that for you. You can do the same thing as we're going to do with these lithium iron phosphate cells. You can put it on a dead 12 volt flooded lead acid or AGM battery or SLA sealed lead acid, and you just dial it up to, so if you want to do a 12 volt this thing, you can dial it up to whatever you want to go to. If you want to go to 14 volts, and you're not going to charge the battery with it, and this one only will charge at a maximum of 5 amps. But all you want to do with this one, in that case, is bring the battery up to a voltage that a smart charger will recognize. So it doesn't matter what you set this at. You can go to 10, 11, 12, 9, whatever, just something to get the voltage boosted up so your smart charger works. That I've used a couple times. It's really nice with that. But our purpose, and what we've used it mainly for, is for charging these lithium iron phosphate cells. These are the two 3.2 volt nominal cells. Of course, the max voltage you want to put into them is 3.65 volts. The ones we're looking at right now is a 230 amp hour cell, and we wanted to build 48 volts, so we had 16 of them. That's why these are a little bit slow, because if you have 16 cells and you're needing to, if you give these batteries with a half charge, approximately that's what they always say they ship them with, it's going to take a while at this one, 5 volts. Now, let me go through the differences of the two we've got sitting here. Okay, the nice thing on this one is the iKococater, something like that. iKococater, right there. And it works really fine. It's a 60 volt max output and a maximum of 5 amps. So we're going to see if we can get this thing up to 5. Here we go. All right. These are shut off, by the way. And I'll tell you, I'll give you an important feature on these things. When I bought them, it really made a big difference to me because I'm not an electronic technician. And when some of these bench power supplies, they don't have a power on off button. They just have one main power on off button. So when you get one of these things and you plug it in the wall, read the manual, figure out what you're doing, watch some videos on how you do it. But if you plug them into the wall outlet and push the power button, your output's live, like you're actually getting power. So to set the ones without a secondary power button to control the output, you have to short them together. So you'll see people on videos on the internet, and you'll see them have these things plugged in, they put them together, oh, a little spark. And then you have to come in and set your maximum voltage. And I think you set the amperage at the same time. Neither one of these do that. They both have a main on-off and then a power output on-off. Because I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to learn how to do it. I just want something simple and easy. So you see this one has main power and an output, so it's off. So if we were to touch these together, nothing's going to happen.
If you're finding the video helpful so far, give us a like and also subscribe to the channel. It would really help us out. Also, if you want to support our work, you can join our Patreon, Subscribestar, and Buy Me a Coffee.
And this other one, we're going to look at the nice power for a second. The nice power is and it's right there, nice power. It's a 30 volt maximum with a 10 amp output. We're going to talk about that output here in just a couple minutes. But it does the same thing. We're going to pull these forward so we can see they're not touching anything. Let me pull the outputs up here. I don't want to touch anything just in case. So we turn it on. And you get kind of the same display, but this display, you can actually turn it, which also means that somebody could come along and bump this thing accidentally and change the output on it. Yeah, let's try to get it set up there. Say I want 3.65 on there again. So you have a fine and a coarse adjustment. So you got V fine for voltage, V coarse for voltage coarse setting. So it's going to give you big change with a little turn. Let's just make sure. Look at that. Well, it goes up to 31.65. Okay, let's bring her back down to 3.65. I guess we'll get in the ballpark. And then try to bring it up with the fine setting. Oh. Okay, very, very finicky on these things. I think we're just going to get it close and stop. Get close. Okay, look, we made it. Okay, your amperage, your current output, same thing. You can dial it down with the coarse, but we're going to take it up to maximum, and we've got everything maxed out. And it's showing it'll do 10.18 amps. It's the same thing, has a main power, so the power cuts the display on and off. And this is something that you'll have to pay attention to. It bothers me a little bit, but when you turn it off, it takes a while for it to actually, the display to go off. So it makes you wonder, did you actually push the button? So anyway, let's bring it back up. This one has the output on off right here. Very important. That's something that we really, really wanted instead of doing the shorting out. In this case, this one I've got set up, I've got them set up a little differently. They come with these banana jacks plugs like this. This is not an unboxing, by the way. This thing's been in use, so I don't have the manual and all that stuff to show you. So this is what you get. You get a couple banana plugs. So red, positive. Just plug it in. Okay. Negative. Same thing. Black. They make it real nice and easy for you. It's got a negative somewhere down there. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to plug it in. Now I'll tell you what. See the green in the middle? Let's just get this out of the way. that ground in the middle, I got no idea what you do with it. I'm not a technician, so I don't use it, because for just charging batteries, you don't need it, as far as I can tell. If somebody happens to know if you do need it, let us know and we'll try to figure out how to use it. But it's got something to do with bonding the ground and the negative, and it's floating right now from what I can tell. It's a floating ground. All right, so let's go back. This one, I showed you the banana jacks on this one. This one we set up just a wee bit different. We're gonna turn this off just for safety purposes. This didn't come with this iKococater. They don't come with these kind of plugs, but you can put them on. So you got like a contact point back here. You got this little screw in on the front. You can use a ring terminal or a split lug type thing, so you can slip it on and off. I just chose to use this because these cables actually came off of a old power station jumper, one of those old things that had the little sill lead acids and had a built-in, was it an air compressor, and then also you can jump your car with it. And it just kind of went completely dead, and I changed the battery a couple times, so I was ready just to get rid of it because the batteries never seemed to work. So this actually just unscrewed straight out of one of those. So we're doing the same thing here. We're just going to use it in place of the banana plug-in, banana plugs or whatever they're called. And you just crank it in there. We got one for the positive, one for the negative. And these are about, they appear to be like they say they're an 8 gauge. And I had to strip this one off to put a new lug on the end. And it definitely was thick. It's 8 gauge. And it appears to be copper from the best I could tell. So good cables. Before we get to throwing them on the battery, the reason I have them on this one, I originally thought they'd be better served on the one that's 30 volt 10 amp because it's going to put out more amperage. This is only going to put out a maximum of 5. And that's the trick to remember. These cheap units off of Amazon, they are all over the place. And you can get them, they're a dime a dozen, and they're about 50 bucks. They're cheaper now than when we bought them a year or two ago. Yeah, these things, I think I paid like probably 60 bucks for them, and now they're more in the $50 range. But they all kind of have a common thing. They have about a 300 watt output. That seems to be very common. And this is the ones that are the most available, is a 30 volt 10 amp, 300 watts. 60 volt 5 amp, 300 watts. So the power supplies must be real common in these things. Problem we've had with this one is it's never really put out 10 amps, even at 3.65 volts, which that's not that much. That's only would be roughly 36 watts. And I've tried everything. I've tried these cables, and I tried them just before we did this video, and I was still only able to get, with the cables, I was getting, I think, 6 or 7 amps is all I could get when I had it hooked up to this battery. I even went to the extent of, you can do this. If you really want to get tricky, you can plug in your banana jacks as well. Get that plug in there. So we can plug a negative into the negative and the positive into the positive if you really want a good power flow. And then you've got 2 connections. So you would just plug these 2 both on the same, and it appears to actually help this one. It boosted up a little bit, but it only put the banana plugs in, the banana jack type plug, it only gave it another amp of output. So when we play with this one, we're going to just use the banana jacks because that's just what seemed to work good. All right, let's take a look at them and see what they actually do. Okay, we'll check this one out first, and maybe it all of a sudden will start putting out some higher amperage, more current, but we got it set at 3.65. That's where we're playing with this one. Again, this is the one that you can just turn the knob and it just turns, and that's not a favorite way to do it for me. We have the power output off. It even says off. Now this one has voltage, amperage, and it just kind of converts it to you. You can do the math in your head, but it'll tell you how many watts it's pulling out. All right. Clips, alligator clips. We have these set up just properly. I put these on to help, because when you try to plug these onto these terminals with this plug, it doesn't work good. This seems to work better. Now we got 2 ways to do it. We can either put it out here, and these, I've checked the resistance on these, and it's very minimal. It's hardly even registers, but still, You can put it in closer if you want to. And all we do, we double check this. We're at 3.65 maximum and 10 amp maximum, and that's what we're looking for. So we're going to push the button and see what happens. And look at that, we're getting 4 amps through these little thin plugs. So yeah, that's doing the calculation for you. 14.67 watts, not a whole lot. Now we can double check that. Okay, 3.23 volts is what the clamp's doing. I don't know what the accuracy is on these things. I really don't know. Zero it out, put it back on. Okay, it's a little closer, 3.6 some odd amps going in. So that one, I don't know which one to believe. It's kind of hard to figure out which one to believe. We've got this and we got this. This should be accurate. This one, I don't know. But then again, all these electronics, I mean, this is an old Craftsman. They're really kind of hard to figure out what's going on with them sometimes. But what we're going to do, also, let's verify the voltage on this thing. Okay, there you go. 3.33. And that's about, when there's no power going into it, that's about what this thing's reading. And I've checked the voltage on these batteries several times, and there are about 3.3 volts. One thing I've seen on some of the videos from way back, they were kind of old, and you would see this number sag. Like that's your maximum, that's what you're set. But some of these power supplies, it'll sag down to what your battery voltage is, rather the maximum voltage setting. Both of these just stay at 3.65. They stay at the setting. I don't really know why. All right, so we're going to terminate this test. Pretty simple, just shut it off. Now output power's off. Remove the clips. Stow them away safely. Okay, we're turned off. All right, let's go to the big guy. This is the 60 volt maximum, 5 amp maximum. We're going to take the big clips. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to clamp them on. Clamp them on. Okay, we're set good. And we've already set it up. We went through 3.65 volt maximum. It's going to try to output as much as it can, so let's push the button and see what we get. Okay, it's a little different. It's actually showing that it's putting out 5 amps. Let's check that out and see if it really is, according to this clamp. Here. Get it where you can see. Well, it's showing 4. All right, here's something that was kind of interesting. Let's try the negative. Like, I really wish I knew how you did this thing. I don't use the clamp. So we're getting 5.23 on the negative side. I've got to look that up and see why that is different. There's got to be a reason. So that's how they work. And what we did to balance these things, to do the top balance on them, is I would take them and run one battery and put this charger on it, either one. And like I say, this one used to put out quite a bit more than whatever we got out of it, 4 or 5 volts, amps. And I was using these clips along with these alligator clip things, and it actually got it really close to 10. Like I said, I don't think I ever saw 10 amp output on the thing. But we're going to shut this off real quick. Get this off here. Well, what we did with it was we take the 16 cells. We're making a 16S battery. We take the 16 cells and use one of these things, put it on there, and just put it on the morning, and then just run it as, wide open, fast as it could. Running real fast, and it's 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 amps. And we get it up to, I normally would set this only at about 3.55, because I didn't know if I could trust the voltage sensing all these things. And I got a little more comfortable with them, and I thought, yeah, they do seem to work okay. But the one thing I didn't want to do is just leave this thing on overnight, like when it's at the maximum amperage. I wouldn't go 3.65 and then just leave it there for, a day, overnight. Because I don't really know if these things would just keep trying to pump power in there. I didn't want to explode the battery or blow them up or do anything strange to them. So we'd charge them all day. And then at the end of the day, you know, however many we were gone through, we just set them aside and try to get them up to 3.55 volts and let them saturate. And the voltages seemed to be okay. Like if I had 3.55 here, we were getting about the same at the terminal. So I was comfortable that this sensing was doing okay as far as not over voltaging these things. And I wouldn't let them charge overnight. I just wasn't comfortable with it. So the next morning we'd pick it back up again. And that's how we got them really boosted up. And then we put the batteries. This is a battery building. This is not a battery building video, but we would put them all in parallel. So we had 3.65 volt maximum. All these were in parallel. So then we could take this thing. That's why I would use these things. It made it easy. Clamp put the clamps on, and then let it sit in top balance. And I do the same thing. Start in the morning and just let it run all day, but then test each cell periodically to make sure that there wasn't any kind of strange things going on, because there's no BMS on it, so you don't want to over voltage one of these. And I just got started in this, and I wanted to be real careful. That's exactly what I would do now. I wouldn't put something on there and just let it run unautomated with one of these or unattended with one of these type of chargers, because I still don't feel real comfortable with them. Some people seem to love them, but they are really prolific in the off-grid battery building community for the DIY battery builders. You could use one of these things also if you wanted to charge, say, a low cell. If you had a really big imbalance with one cell was pretty low, you could probably stick this thing on there and, you know, to your one cell and get your one cell charged up. Other than that, I have not found any more uses for it, and I'm sure there's plenty of them. You can use it for a 12 volt power supply. We did find, if you want to, in an automotive situation where, let's say you're wanting to check some of the power continuity beyond, say, a fuse or a relay, you could use this to do the same thing. You supply 12 volts, and then, you know, you just use the ground. You touch the alligator ground to the car, you know, to ground it out, and then you can power it, circuitry up and make sure it's, you know, lighting lights up or clicking relays or whatever you want to do. So it does have a couple of useful uses, but for us, it's pretty much strictly just charging these batteries up. So hopefully this gives you some good information, or some at least marginal information on what you can do with these things if you're in the DIY battery building, or you have any other need to, you know, charge a dead battery or supply, you know, a variable voltage to some circuitry.
Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to support us so we can keep making videos like this, you can join our Patreon, Subscribestar, and Buy Me a Coffee. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.
Today we're talking about Bitcoin.